In the last movie, we looked at the basics of character formatting. Now let's look at a few more other styling options that you have. I have my brochure document open here, and I'm going to double-click on this text frame on the left, and then zoom into 400% by pressing Command-4 or Control-4 on Windows. When I double-clicked, it immediately switched to the Type tool, so now I can just drag over some text that I want to select. I want to point out some of the features in the middle of the control panel now. The first field is the vertical scale field. Right now it's set to 100%, but I could scale this up, maybe to 150%. When I hit Return or Enter, you can see that it scales directly up. Everything gets taller. I can do the same thing to the horizontal scaling, just to the right. I'll squish this a little bit by setting this to 80%. Now, if you do this, just be sure not to show it to any designers, because they're just going to scream at you. This looks terrible. But at least you know that you can do it. There's other stuff you can do too. For example, I could choose this single X up here at the end of Ru, and I could make it go up or down off its baseline by changing its baseline shift. That's this value up here. For example, I'll set this to 4 points and hit Return or Enter, and you'll see that it pushes it straight up. Or we could pull it down, do a negative number instead. Set this to -2, and it'll go straight down. And if you want to get really crazy, let's select some more text here and change its skew or shear. That's this field up here. Right now it's set to 0 degrees, but if I set this to something like 15 degrees and hit Return or Enter, you see it skews it or shears it to the right. It almost looks italic, but this is not a true italic. This is a fake italic. Some people call it oblique. Or if you want to shear it to the left, you just change this to a negative number. -15 degrees skews backward. Now, you may not be using any of that kind of text formatting very much, or at least I hope you're not, but here's some text formatting that you probably will use. I'm going to select some words down here, and I'm going to give it an underline, and I'll do that by clicking on the underline button. That's this T with a little underscore. It's highlighted, so I can't see the underscore very well, so I'll click off here, and you can see that that's a big, black, thick, kind of clunky underline. I sure wish I had some control over how that underline looked, and in fact, I do. All I have to do is add one modifier key. I'll select the text again, and this time instead of clicking on this button, I'm going to hold down the Option key or the Alt key on Windows when I click. That forces InDesign to show me the options, in this case the Underline Options dialog box. We can see that the underline is turned on here in this checkbox. But you can also see that we can change the weight, the offset, the color, and so on. Let's go ahead and change this to something different, like let's make it green. Let's make it a little bit more narrow, maybe 0.3 points. The offset is how far away from the baseline, the bottom of the text, that it's going to sit. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger, maybe 2 points. And I'm just tabbing through from one item to the next in here. All right, let's click OK, and you can see that it's changed. Actually, it's really hard to see that it's changed there, again, because it's highlighted. So let me click off here, and then you'll be able to see we have a nice fine green line. Now, you might have noticed that some of these words along the right edge are hyphenated. And I'm going to be talking about hyphenation in a later chapter, but for right now, I do want to point out that you can control that to some degree by selecting the word and then going to the Control Panel menu, and that's way over here on the right side of the screen, this little menu here, and then you can choose No Break. When you choose No Break, it forces the word to stay together. It won't hyphenate across two lines. Now, all the other text around it has to reflow to make sure that text won't break, but if you want the word to stay together, it's worth it. I'm going to scroll down here a little bit farther, and I want to show you that you can apply the no break effect to even more than one word. For example, maybe I want this whole phrase, Ru Academic Graphic Design, to always be on the same line. I don't want it to hyphenate or even break across two lines. So I'll choose that and turn on no break. That's kind of crazy, especially in this narrow column, but you see that it does just what I asked it to. It won't break across the line. Phew, well, that's a lot of different formatting options, and we've really only scratched the surface of what you can do with character-level formatting. In the next movie, we'll look at some features for turning text into uppercase or small caps characters.